Ah, France, land of croissants, fine wine, and a national motto of liberty, equality, and fraternity. But have you ever wondered how France got its name? Was it named after the Romans, a famous king, or perhaps a secret society of cheese connoisseurs? Well, believe it or not, France was named after a group of fierce, axe-wielding warriors who didn't even start out in France. By the end of this video, you'll know how the country got its name, why it could have been called something completely different, and how a group of so-called barbarians ended up naming one of the most sophisticated nations in the world. Before we begin, like la video et abonnez-vous à la chaîne, mes amis. That means like the video and subscribe to the channel, my friends. I hope that made sense. Otherwise, I may have just invited you to adopt a baguette. To understand where the name France comes from, we have to go back to a time when France wasn't France. In fact, it was a significant part of the Roman Empire known as Gaul. Gaul was home to Celtic tribes who loved fighting Romans, drinking mead, and occasionally wearing suspiciously little clothing into battle. The Romans conquered it in the 1st century BC and ruled over it for centuries. But then, in the 5th century AD, the Roman Empire started crumbling like a badly baked soufflé, and in came the Franks, Germanic warriors who didn't care about Rome's fancy roads and togas. The Franks were tough, they were brutal, and they carried a special kind of throwing axe called a francisca. In other words, these guys meant business. So, who were the Franks? They were a confederation of Germanic tribes who migrated into Roman Gaul seeking land, power, and possibly better weather. One of their greatest leaders was Clovis I, who ruled in the late 5th and early 6th centuries. He was the first king to unite the Franks under one rule, and fun fact, he also converted to Christianity to gain support from the local population. Clovis established the Kingdom of the Franks, which covered much of modern-day France and parts of Germany. And since his people were called the Franks, the land became known as Francia. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Frank actually means free in their old language, so technically France could be translated as the land of the free, except the Americans kind of stole that phrase later. So you might be wondering, why didn't France just keep the name Gaul? After all, the land was known as Gaul for centuries under the Romans. The simple answer? Branding. By the time the Franks took over, Gaul was seen as the old Roman name, and the Franks wanted something new. Plus, when you've just conquered a place, you probably don't want to name it after the people you defeated. Also, fun fact, Gaul comes from the Latin Gallia, but the word is believed to have Celtic origins. Some say it meant powerful or fierce, which is fitting for the Gauls, who gave Julius Caesar some serious headaches. But in the end, Francia became the dominant name, and over time, it evolved into France. Imagine if history had gone differently. We could all be calling it New Gaul or even axe-wielding warrior land. Even after the Franks took over, France didn't officially exist as a country for a long time. For centuries, it was part of the larger Frankish Empire, ruled by powerful kings like Charlemagne. In fact, Charlemagne's empire was so big that it covered France, Germany, and parts of Italy. But after his death, the empire was divided, and in 843 AD, the western part officially became West Francia, which eventually just became France. Over the centuries, France grew into a strong kingdom, fighting endless wars with England, building castles, and perfecting the art of making cheese smell incredibly strong. By the time the French Revolution rolled around in the late 18th century, the name France was deeply embedded in history, and the country had fully embraced its identity as a major European power. To understand modern France, you have to look at its wild political ride through history. It kicked off with the French Revolution in 1789, when the people were done with royal decadence, rising bread prices, and being treated like background characters in a Versailles drama. Heads rolled, literally, and France said goodbye to kings and hello to republics. Which didn't last long. Enter Napoleon Bonaparte, who took that revolution energy and said, "Thanks, I'll take it from here." He crowned himself emperor, a bold move, and rewrote the rules of European warfare. But after his epic rise and inevitable fall, France yo-yoed between republics, monarchies, and empires, like it was binge-watching different political genres. Then came Charles de Gaulle in 1958, who had enough of the chaos and founded the Fifth Republic. This system gave presidents real power, and France hasn't changed its constitution since. De Gaulle was basically France's political GPS, strong direction, always rerouting, and a slightly grumpy voice. And boy, there have been some characters ever since. François Mitterrand turned socialism chic in the 80s. Jacques Chirac had charm, a deep voice, and eventually a corruption conviction. Nicolas Sarkozy was hyperactive, fast-talking, and always somehow under investigation. François Hollande made headlines with a scooter and secret love life. And Emmanuel Macron, the youthful banker who campaigned as a centrist savior, now finds himself constantly dodging tear gas and pension reform protests. But Macron's rise didn't come without noise from the opposition. Enter Marine Le Pen, the face of the far right in France. Her party has been around since 1972, and it gained notoriety for its strong nationalist rhetoric and hardline immigration stance. It started as a fringe far-right party with a platform centered around ultra-nationalism, anti-immigration policies, and Euroscepticism. It was often accused of race discrimination and xenophobia. In 2018, Marine Le Pen tried to clean up its image by renaming it to Rassemblement National, the National Rally. Think of it like changing your band name but still playing the same edgy songs. Today, while Macron remains president, the Rassemblement National is no longer a fringe party. It's a significant force, especially among younger voters and rural areas. The far right keeps making noise, capitalizing on discontent around immigration, inflation, and France's relationship with the European Union. So, from revolutionary chaos to political whiplash, France's political history is anything but boring. And who knows, by the time this video ends they might already be arguing over who should run next. France's military history is rich and storied. From the medieval knights to the formidable Napoleonic Wars, let's dive into France's most defining military moments. 1805. The Battle of Austerlitz. Napoleon, outnumbered by Russian and Austrian forces, staged a brilliant feint by luring his enemies into a trap, then crushed them. It's still studied in military academies worldwide. 1429. The Siege of Orleans. France was losing the 100 Years' War until a teenage girl, Joan of Arc, claimed she had a divine mission, breaking the English siege and reviving French hopes. Within years, France turned the tide. 1914, the First Battle of the Marne. German forces were closing in on Paris, but French troops launched a bold counterattack using even taxis to move soldiers. The German advance stopped and World War I entered a brutal stalemate. But like all countries, not all chapters are victories, and France surely had its share. Starting with Agincourt in 1415, French nobles in shining armor charged across muddy ground, straight into English longbows. Thousands died. It was a humiliating defeat for the French. 1870, the Franco-Prussian War, a short, devastating conflict. Prussia crushed France, captured Napoleon III, and declared a new German empire, in the Palace of Versailles. France never saw it coming. 1940, the fall of France. Despite strong defenses like the Maginot Line, Germany struck fast through Belgium. In 6 weeks, Paris fell. It shocked the world. But France rose again, and today, it plays a key role in global security. From peacekeeping in Africa, to counter-terrorism in the Sahel, to NATO's front lines, the French military is present, prepared, and professional. Here's what makes it unique: the French Foreign Legion, where loyalty matters more than nationality, with tough missions and elite standards. A nuclear arsenal. France is one of only 5 officially recognized nuclear powers in the world. La Force de Frappe, its nuclear deterrent ready by air, land, and sea. A legacy of military innovation from Napoleon's battlefield tactics to the Mirage jets and Leclerc tanks of today. And a structure built for rapid deployment, especially across Francophone nations and crisis zones. French forces have played pivotal roles in shaping Europe. In victory, defeat, and evolution, the French army has shaped history, and it's still out there, shaping the future. Moving on to sports, football is France's biggest obsession, especially after their World Cup victories in 1998 and 2018, and the UEFA Euro Cup in 1984 and 2000. At club level, Paris Saint-Germain dominates today, lifting the Champions League in 2025. Olympique de Marseille had also lifted it, back in 1993. And AS Monaco, Lyon, and Saint-Étienne have all made waves in European and domestic battles, adding their flair to France's rich football heritage. As far as the legends, plenty of them. Starting with the Ballon d'Or winners, Raymond Kopa, the pioneer, who claimed it in 1958, Michel Platini, who won the Ballon d'Or 3 times in a row, 1983, 84, and 85. Jean-Pierre Papin, with his thunderous volleys, took it in 1991. Zinedine Zidane, World Cup winner and football artist, earned it in 1998. And most recently, Karim Benzema, the relentless striker, crowned in 2022. But you can't talk about French football without names like Thierry Henry, a lethal striker who shined predominantly in Arsenal. Also, Eric Cantona, the king of Old Trafford, is still idolized for his charisma and boldness. Today, the torch shines with Kylian Mbappé, blistering pace, killer instinct, and already a World Cup winner at 19. But the country dominates far beyond the pitch. Cycling is practically sacred in France. The Tour de France is the most prestigious cycling race in the world, testing athletes across grueling mountain passes and sun-drenched country roads. In tennis, Roland Garros, also known as the French Open, is one of the 4 Grand Slam tournaments, and France has produced legends like Yannick Noah, the last Frenchman to win the title in 1983. Basketball? France has sent stars to the NBA, including Tony Parker, a 4-time NBA champion with the San Antonio Spurs. And in rugby, France is one of the top-tier nations in the world, regularly competing in and often dominating the Six Nations Championship. France's sports culture blends elegance, strategy, and grit, just like its people. French cuisine is more than food, it's a philosophy, a lifestyle, a love language made of butter and garlic. Let's start with croissants, golden, flaky pastries that crunch on the outside and melt in the middle, best paired with strong coffee and a view of the Eiffel Tower if possible. Then there's coq au vin, chicken braised in red wine with mushrooms and bacon. It's rich, slow-cooked, and tastes like history. Bouillabaisse from Marseille is a fisherman's stew turned gourmet, full of fresh seafood, saffron, and sole. Want something quick? Grab a baguette while it's crisp and warm and pair it with some brie or camembert cheeses that smell a bit like gym socks but taste like heaven. And of course crepes, thin pancakes filled with anything from Nutella to ham and cheese. Street food, yes, but with class. To drink? Choose from hundreds of wines, Bordeaux, Burgundy, Champagne, or sip a little pastis in Provence. The French don't just eat, they savor and turn meals into memories. And what about its most influential figures in human history? Napoleon Bonaparte, military genius, emperor, and meme template. Love him or loathe him, he reshaped Europe. He was named Emperor of the French, crowned himself, and left a legacy still debated today. Joan of Arc, a teenage peasant girl turned war hero and saint. She led armies, heard voices, and was burned at the stake, then canonized as a Roman Catholic saint centuries later. Marie Curie, born in Poland, but made her scientific breakthroughs in France. She was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize and the only person to win Nobels in 2 different sciences. Victor Hugo gave us Les Miserables and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, earning global fame and a spot in France's pantheon. Edith Piaf, the Little Sparrow, sang from the soul. Her voice, full of tragedy and triumph, made La Vie en Rose a global anthem. Claude Monet, leader of the Impressionist movement, turned water lilies into timeless art. His works hang in the Musée d'Orsay and galleries across the world. Zinedine Zidane, football magician and national hero, won the Ballon d'Or and led France to World Cup glory. Each one left a mark, not just on France but on the world. Here's a fun fact. France has more roundabouts than any other country in the world. Over 30,000 of them. It's basically a nation of beautiful circles. Another? France is the most visited country on Earth with over 90 million tourists per year. People just can't stay away from its art, its food, and its slightly intimidating cafe waiters. And remember that the word franc, meaning honest or direct, comes from the Franks, the same warriors that gave France its name. That fierce, unfiltered spirit, still part of the national character. So in the end, France isn't just the land of the Franks. It's the land of artists, warriors, philosophers, rebels, and romantics. It's fierce, refined, revolutionary, and full of cheese. While France is the land of cafes, couture, and castles, that doesn't mean that every corner of France is a postcard. So if you're planning a visit, here's a friendly, slightly sarcastic travel advisory of places you should definitely visit and places you should definitely avoid. So let's start with places to visit and why. Paris. Yes, it's obvious, but there's a reason. Or many reasons. The Eiffel Tower sparkles every hour at night, and if you're feeling brave, you can ride the elevator up and face your fear of heights with a croissant in hand. Don't skip the Louvre. Just go early if you actually want to see the Mona Lisa without someone's iPad in your face and swing by Notre Dame. Even under renovation, it's iconic. Wander around Montmartre, where art lives in the walls, and check out the Champs-Élysées, where shopping becomes a full-blown cardio workout. Oh and yes, Arc de Triomphe is that giant roundabout you saw in every movie car chase. Disneyland, a magical retreat just outside the capital. All the fun of classic Disney with a touch of French attitude. Where else can you hear Mickey Mouse say bonjour with such elegance? Also, visit Provence, full of lavender fields, sun-soaked vineyards, charming villages. It's like stepping into a Van Gogh painting, without the ear thing. Loire Valley, home to some of the most picturesque castles you'll ever see. If you're into chateaux with moats and dramatic backstories, this is your jam. Nice in the French Riviera, for that rich but relaxed feeling. Sunbathe like a movie star, sip wine by the sea, and try not to accidentally walk into a 12,000 euros handbag store. Strasbourg, where France flirts with Germany, the architecture is adorable, the Christmas market is legendary, and the food is French-German fusion at its best. Mont Saint-Michel, a magical island abbey that rises from the mist like a fantasy novel setting. Go early or be prepared to fight crowds like it's Black Friday at a boulangerie. Now the not-so-cool places. The outer suburbs of Paris at night, banlieue, some are perfectly safe and beautiful, but others, especially at night, can be tense. If you're not sure where you're going, ask locals or stick to main areas. Crowded metro stations, especially in central Paris. Pickpocketing is basically an art form here. Keep your phone zipped away and your "I'm a tourist" face hidden. Protest zones. France loves a good protest. If there's a large crowd gathering and someone is waving a flare or banging a saucepan, back away. Overpriced cafes near major landmarks. That tiny €9 espresso near the Eiffel Tower? Yeah, it tastes like regret. Walk 2 streets over for better quality and less drama. As far as driving in city centers, unless you enjoy honking, confusing road signs, and the threat of getting trapped in a 30-minute roundabout loop, stick to trains. France is glorious, but like any fine wine, best enjoyed with a little guidance. Know where to go and where to clutch your bag a little tighter, and you'll leave saying "C'est magnifique" instead of "Mon Dieu, what was that?" So what do you think? Should France have stayed Gaul, or does France sound just about right? And what other country do you want to hear about next? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell before a medieval Frank throws some French fries at your Wi-Fi router. Au revoir, baguette magnifique, fromage est la vie. That means goodbye, magnificent baguette, cheese is life. At least I think that's what I said. Look, my French is mostly croissants and confusion.